Hello, Canucks fans. Welcome back to another episode of Canucks Conversation, brought to you by Bet365. Check out Bet365's 3-goal early payout. When your team goes up 3, you get paid. It's that simple. Download the app today. It must be 19 plus. Please play responsibly. My name is Dave Grilli. I am joined by Harmon Dial. Harm, you're a big YouTuber now. We've discussed this. Comment
I'm
from
not.
Comment from Nick Pocek in the chat that really got me going here. You got to throw this because personal branding matters, right? Like, when you were asking me for advice, I'm like, hey, like, you're such a pro. How do I make my YouTube channel perfect? What I told you is branding matters, right? Like, branding really matters. Here's what you say. Nick Pocek in quotes. I quote, "You just got harmonized. Now smash that subscribe button." End every video with that.
Yeah, I don't know if I like that as a catchphrase, but I appreciate the excitement behind the idea.
What's the best catchphrase you have in mind so far?
I don't have any catchphrases. I don't
Okay.
think I'm a catchphrase guy.
Write this one down because now you've got at least one, so we can figure it out, right?
Okay, I'll add that. I'll add that to the list of quads ideas that I'll probably never take a second look at.
Hey, here's a list of quads ideas that the NHL started using. Find teams and head coaches and whoever lay down the freaking law when they violate media policies, when players aren't made available like they're supposed to be, when they're not sitting in their stalls. The NHL, moments before the show went live, and folks, you're going to want to be sitting down for this and listen very closely to this. So if you listen passively, listen up. The NHL has fined Vegas Golden Knights head coach John Tortorella $100,000. $100,000 to John Tortorella. And the Vegas Golden Knights are being forced to forfeit a second-round pick in this year's draft. That's a heavy penalty.
Yeah, I was dying laughing when you sent that screenshot in our chat, and I honestly had to double check to make sure it was real. And for those that aren't aware, last night after eliminating the Anaheim Ducks, Torts just didn't show up for his media availability. They didn't open up the locker room. I think they made 2 players available at the podium, 1 player to the side, and even at the press conference, I think there was a clear, bus is coming in 10 minutes. Let's wrap this up kind of thing. And it's just weird. Your team just won. They're advancing to the conference final. What are you doing? Why are you creating so much noise and drama around your team? I'll be honest, I didn't expect the NHL to actually lay the law and hammer this down, but apparently Vegas had been warned about this in the past. And I think it's hilarious. And I think the rest of the league is just rejoicing in this news because I think Vegas is arguably the most hated team in the NHL.
I have a theory now. The NHL, because they said previous warnings were given out, right? And they were talking specifically about Vegas. And for those that missed it, yeah, John Tortorella missed his media avail last night. Vegas moves on. They beat the Anaheim Ducks, and you don't get to hear from that coach. You don't get to hear from players. And the story was, we got to fly out. We can only fly out at certain times. From Anaheim, we have to get out. We have to go. Even if that's the case, we've seen head coaches act professional. You show up for 2 minutes, say, hey guys, I got to keep it really short tonight. I'm not going to take any questions. These were my thoughts on the game. That's a media avail. Just something. You got to do something. You have to do something. Anyways, my theory, all the teams got warned and the Canucks said, okay, it's time to bring in the Sedins because we can't have our players dodging media responsibilities anymore. We can't have players erasing their names off the whiteboard when they're requested to speak. We can't have players not being in their stalls post-game. It's time to bring in the Sedins so we can actually get a handle on this. I would just love if that's what it was. The NHL is like, not that that's what it was for the Canucks hiring, but if the NHL is just saying like, okay, enough of this. Everyone's room or a lot of rooms got messed up during COVID because everybody got used to being on Zoom. We're done with that. COVID's gone. We're done with this. Everybody's back to how it was, how it should be. And if you don't comply, we're going to start finding coaches. We're going to start taking away draft picks. I would love that. That's great. I'm all for this. Again, like I said, this is a quads idea that the NHL stole.
And I don't know how many people know these regulations, especially for players, are in the CBA, in their collective bargaining agreement. It's letter of the law that when the game is over, I think it's within 5 minutes or so, locker rooms have to be opened, and every player is supposed to be in the room. And it's not just Vegas, it's not just Vancouver, but around the NHL, a lot of teams have been half-assing it. And just to give a behind-the-scenes perspective on it, I remember my first season in the NHL, you'd go in after a Canucks game, and every player would be at their stall, and you could go up to whoever you want and have a one-on-one interview, unless it's obviously somebody that scored 2 goals and there's a bunch of media that wants to talk to that player, in which case it'd be more of a scrum. Now you go into the Canucks locker room after games, and this is at least pre-trade deadline. I have a feeling things
It got better. It got better.
better down the stretch. But for a while there, it was you go into the locker room, it's completely empty. There are 3 names on the board for players that have been requested by the media, and those guys trickle in one-on-one. And you can't just you can request players beforehand, but you can't just go into a locker room and, if you see Kiefer Sherwood in the corner, he's actually one of the guys that would stick around. And this was the beauty is have games where you wouldn't think to yourself, I really want to talk to Kiefer Sherwood specifically, but then you just see him and ask him about something, a play that happened in the game, on the record, off the record, and you're able to build a relationship with the player, and there's that added familiarity and trust that gets built. And along the way, the league's kind of lost a handle on this kind of stuff. And I also think when you look at what happened in the OHL with that head coach over there, and they went viral for basically showing up to the press conference, but then not really giving answers. It was such a bad look on the league, and credit to the coach. He actually was accountable and went on overdrive and apologized. But how do you not see that type of situation going viral? How much noise that creates around your team and your players? And if you're John Tortorella, think, this is going to be helpful to our team.
Seriously. And somehow we spent 10 minutes talking about this. I don't have any more of a take on this. I love it.
Hilarious.
I love it. I hope every team falls in line now. Like, I hope we get back to it. Because this is the thing. This is the thing that people don't understand. And, it's always, media complaining, media. I hate journalists, actually. Whatever. I get it. Whatever. No, you're entitled to your opinion. I would argue, like, one of the best pieces of PR the Canucks got all of last year was that story Tyson did with Zeev Buium. Those quotes were put on Hockey Night in Canada. They were talked about on the Canucks regional broadcast. It was Tyson that got those quotes, and it was just him. Like, it was just him saying, hey, Zeev, I want to talk to you. And they just talked one-on-one for like 15 minutes at UBC. You can't get any quotes like that if it's, hey, Zeev, I'm going to talk to you in a scrum with like 9 other reporters around. You just can't do that. And like, let's be fair. Those opportunities for one-on-ones are mostly available at morning skates, but it doesn't give you an opportunity to go get those same types of quotes, those really impactful quotes post-game. It doesn't when you're having to do it in a scrum. And people complain about, media asks dumb questions. It's partly because of how awful the setup is. And I'm not just talking about Vancouver now. I'm talking about around the league. This is happening a lot of places, right? And I also do really, this is one thing we'll talk about. RJ had some quotes today. The Sedins talked about the Canucks needing to improve their relationship with the media. Like, this is not news to anybody at Rogers Arena. Like, I'm not personally, call me crazy, I think this is going to improve. It was already improving before these guys came in, and now they're in place. Anyways, my point being, you can't get these types of quotes and these really impactful quotes when you're in a scrum. And when you're in a scrum, there's this awkward, like, okay, whose turn is it to ask a question? Okay, what are we gonna ask? And you know, if you ask 2, someone else has to ask 2, and it's just this weird dance that you have to do. Whereas, like, I literally, every game I went to last year, I participated in maybe like 1 or 2 scrums, and I literally every time I requested a guy post game one-on-one. Sometimes, depending on who it was that I requested, they wouldn't come out and speak. But a lot of times, shout out Ratu. I requested him like 4 times. Kiefer Sherwood, another guy. I had a bunch last year where I was just sitting. And guess what, Harm? I didn't publish all of those quotes. A lot of the time it was just, hey, let's talk about the game, provide some insight. And then I was able to use that either on Convo the next day. There was a few times where I said, I caught up with Kiefer Sherwood last night, or I caught up with Ratu. Whoever it is, it's just such a better setup. It's better for the team. And that's the point I was trying to make when I brought up those Booyam quotes that Tyson got. It's better for the team. It's better for the media. And most of all, it's better for the fan base. Like, it's better for content. It's better for not having to hear those questions of like, what do you think of your guys' performance tonight? And just like the mundane, like, quote unquote, stupid questions. It's like, you have to get the quote somehow, and you have to get these guys talking. And when you're in a scrum, that's how you have to do it. And it sucks.
This is also something that the last management group was aware of too. This wasn't just
and Jim tried.
The
Jim
whole
tried.
organization. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, there were instances when he would tell us, I'm really trying to improve this side, but it's difficult if you're management because you can't just walk into the locker room.
Sorry to interrupt you. Take it away with Jacob. I got to answer this call.
Yeah, for sure. But the point I was making is, if you're Jim Rutherford, you can't just walk into the locker room after every game and demand that the players remain accountable. And it's tough, especially in a situation where you're losing. And I think it also relates to an overall culture for the organization of accountability, right? Where certain guys would, after a bad performance, just no show, which I don't think breeds a good environment. And this is where the positive side is. I think this next core of up and coming guys, they've embraced that part of it. Not just Zeev Bouillon, but Tom Verlander is one of the most accountable young players I've seen. Right? We saw some of his quotes after tough nights, and not just for the team level, but the accountability and the standard that he holds himself to as well. So there's him. DPD is always around in the locker room. Ogren and Rossi may not be the most talkative guys per se, but they're always available. They're always friendly. They're always professional. I think it's part of being as professional as possible. And I think a lot of the players from the previous core, they just weren't invested in, and not just the media obligation side, but that also bleeds into community and this idea that you're just there to perform on the ice like a mercenary. You're not as invested in all the other stuff that comes with being a player in the city.
Well, and I think, we talked about how things changed during COVID, right? There was no community events. There was Zoom media. And I think a lot of older players in the league who were maybe used to the way things were and then had to get used to the changes that happened for that year and a half, in some places even closer to 2 years. And then they kind of realized, it's just easier not to have to deal with this anymore. And I think I'm not going to put words in any specific players' mouths, but I would imagine that if you talked to a lot of players off the record, you'd probably hear some of them say, yeah, I kind of preferred it during COVID when we didn't have to sit at our locker and talk after every game, or, but now this new crop of players, like they weren't around for that. Right.
Yeah.
Like, think about where Tom Verlander was in 2020. He was, how old would he have been? 6 years ago now. So yeah, he would have been a teenager still. He would have been playing junior in Sweden. Wasn't even in North America yet to go to college. So like, these young players now, they never experienced that weird couple of years from COVID. And if the culture that is being said is, hey, we're going to do things the right way, we're going to build relationships with the community, with the media, we're going to sit down and talk one-on-one with Tyson if you're Zeev Bouillon. We've talked a lot about culture this week, and Harm, you're bang on that this group of young players the Canucks have right now might go a long way in changing this culture that, as you guys have explained, has been a growing problem around the NHL.
For sure. We spent a lot of time talking about that Torts thing. It was hilarious, especially the part about the fine is whatever. John Tortorella's made enough money in his career that I don't think he really cares, but I'm sure the franchise cares that they're losing a second round pick, especially when you're in your win now window, and that could be a valuable trade chip. We'll see also what happens. The statement said the Golden Knights can appeal. I'm not sure if that penalty will get lessened. Funny storyline, but I think as we transition, one of the things we want to talk.
Sorry, Harm. We do have a super chat that I want to get to before Quads comes back in. Quads just had to take a call. He'll be back in like a minute, but we have a super chat from Spatzilli, and Spatzilli said, "Tell us a secret about Quads while he's gone." Harm, do you got anything that you want to share?
A secret about Quads. I feel like he's very open and honest about like everything.
Yeah,
The good and the bad.
yeah,
Like he came on the show, what was it, yesterday or the day before, and talked about how bad his baseball game on Tuesday was, for example. Like he doesn't shy away from being very open and honest about everything.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think people know about his peanut allergy, his nut allergy, right? Like that's not a secret.
Quaz is in a private chat saying home address.
Yeah, his home address is no. Thank you for the super chat, Spetzley. I don't know. There's just we don't have any secrets. Quads will be back.
We'll ask Quads when he's back.
So I will say that our super chat charity partner this season is the BC Mental Health Foundation. If you want to get your comment or question on the show, hit us with a super chat, as our proceeds will go to the BC Mental Health Foundation, changing the face of mental health and addiction by supporting breakthroughs in care, public understanding, research, and knowledge exchange. Quads, looks like his phone call is done. He is back in. Nope, not done.
I'm on hold. I'm just listening to you guys. It's the vet. I got to deal with it. I got to deal with it for Bert. But yeah, all right. I'll be okay. Just keep going. You guys are doing a great job.
Tell us the secret after. Think about it while you're on hold.
I will.
All right.
But yeah, in thinking about that press conference from yesterday, we recapped a lot of the major points. One thing that we didn't get to that I wanted to really underline is how encouraging it was for me toward the end when I asked about how do you acquire more picks and prospects. And Ryan Johnson spoke very thoughtfully about two things. Number one, strategically targeting free agents that they can bring in, amplifying a bigger role, and then sell them off at future trade deadlines, right? That's not verbatim what he said, but that's very clearly what he was insinuating. And there was a level of intentionality behind that. And that's important, right? Because when this team goes into free agency, it's not just about let's find vets to fill out certain roster spots. You have to, as an organization, try and manufacture asset value so that you can keep up with, like, forget the San Jose's and the Anaheims and Montreal's way ahead of everybody that are in Utah's that have already built up a fortress of assets. Think about some of the teams that are still near the bottom of the standings, early stages of their rebuild, but have already picked up so many more picks than the Canucks because they're at least 2 or 3 years into it. Chicago, Calgary, you have to catch up with those teams. And I like that this front office is even viewing free agent targets through the lens of, can we do something similar to what we did with Kiefer Sherwood? And the second point, an open-mindedness around taking on bad contracts. When have we ever heard the Canucks explicitly say we're willing to take on bad contracts to acquire draft picks? Now, I've been very clear that I think those opportunities aren't going to be as readily available as previous years, where I think the prices teams are going to pay are lower than the flat cap era, where the classic example is always Sean Monahan. Habs were paid a first-round pick by Calgary to take him on, resuscitated his value, flipped him later down the road for another first-round pick. But I still think there are opportunities to net at least some picks, and especially the second part of that equation, rehab that player's value, flip them later down the road. The Canucks, the last time they quote unquote rebuilded in about 2015, 2016, they always spent to the cap, but they never showed an intent to do that. And I remember all the way back to 2019 when Patrick Marleau, the Leafs, had to get off the last year of his contract, and just harping on that, banging on that drum, and the Canucks just seem to have no interest in that. So I find that part encouraging. The only question for me on that front is, as the cap continues rising, and this is a point that a lot of teams are going to have to contend with, once the cap shoots past 100 million, I think we're going to be surprised by some of the teams that don't spend to the cap, right? A lot of mid-market teams, a lot of small market teams just aren't going to have the flexibility, especially in years where they aren't contending for a Stanley Cup, to spend to the ceiling the way they used to for the last 10 years or so. And so with that in mind, the Canucks aren't getting playoff revenue anytime soon. So are they going to have the full backing of ownership to take on these inefficient deals, to spend that money knowing that, okay, you're going to get draft picks? I guess that's the only question mark that remains to be seen on that front.
Were you at all concerned yesterday when RJ had that quote where he was asked about spending to the cap and he kind of used it in the frame of like being competitive?
A little bit, not overly, because I think I would have been more concerned if he didn't have that answer towards the very end of the press conference where he said, we're going to explore every opportunity to creatively get draft picks and prospects, and specifically mention the bad contracts thing. So that tempered some of that concern. But yeah, I think for the Canucks, we've certainly heard a lot of speculation about them cheaping out in certain areas, not in terms of spending to the cap in previous years, but how much they invest in paying their head coaches. We certainly suspect that Adam Foote is one of the lowest paid head coaches in the NHL. Even some speculation around how much were they going to be willing to pay the next GM of this team, and even certain departments. And this is another big question for me, is like expanding the analytics department. Sure, on the surface, the Sedins have said we're going to have every resource available, but just knowing the way this ownership group has apparently operated in the past, are they going to cheap out a little bit? Especially because, again, this wouldn't be a concern if the cap was mostly staying the same, but it's going up a lot. And this team's revenue, they're not going to be able to cash in on home games anytime soon. That is a question mark for me, especially because when it comes to expanding certain departments, analytics, player development, and at least to be fair to them, they did beef up the player development over the last couple of years. But specifically with the analytics department, Vancouver has some smart people within that department, right? Aiden Fox, I believe, is the one that heads that department. You talk to anybody that's been around the organization across multiple regimes for the last half a dozen years, nothing but glowing things to say about Aiden Fox. Ryan Beach is in there in some capacity. He's obviously a really sharp guy. A few years ago, they hired Miles Hoken, who is a younger guy. I don't know him too well, but by all accounts, bright individual. It's not that Vancouver's analytics department doesn't have smart people. It's just that you compare it to some of the big spenders in the NHL, and they just don't have the same volume of staff there. And I think there needs to be a willingness on the part of this franchise to invest more in that area, especially because we're entering a point where, like, I spoke to another NHL team in the Eastern Conference where their staff is gearing up with the AI wave, and not from the sense of we're going to use large language models and we're going to be turning to Claude to tell us what to do. Like, that's obviously completely foolish. But
Keith Pelly.
What AI can do is, like, it can code tools for you. It can help you parse through a ton of information. And behind the scenes, NHL teams have access to millions of data points that we don't on the public side because of player and puck tracking. The issue is just, how do you take this massive chunk of data and turn it into actionable insight? Because, for instance, to separate the signal from the noise, where you go even on NHL Edge, which is very basic and only a small fraction of what NHL teams have access to, you have to figure out what data actually matters, right? For example, how many miles a player skates in a game probably doesn't matter. Probably there doesn't give me an actual insight that helps my team win. But if you can leverage tools and hire engineers to have that curiosity, to ask questions, to leverage some of these AI tools, you can find answers to questions and build models that can turn this big blob of raw data into advantages that your front office can then leverage to make better decisions. And that's where you want to see the Canucks go back to being a leading, cutting edge organization the way they were in the Gillis era.
This isn't anyone else from Karn, but it's very prevalent. He said, are there certain names around the league that you would want to see join the analytics staff?
We've mentioned Cam Lawrence before. certainly Sam Ventura, if you can give him some type of promotion that would entice him to leave his current opportunity in Buffalo, I believe. I saw a couple people mentioning Erica Parnas, who's in Colorado. There are a lot of these guys, right? It's not as if there are only a select number of these nerds you can hire. I think there are a lot of high quality candidates out there, especially ones that are super smart but are younger, and because they don't have as much experience, they're in smaller positions. And I can tell you this as well. There are some NHL organizations that don't pay, especially the small to mid market level teams, that don't pay their analytics staffers a lot. So this doesn't have to be an expensive project necessarily. You can go and poach some of the smartest talent from some of these small to mid market teams, even if you're not shooting in the, obviously the Sam Ventura, Cam Lawrence tier. Like, that's going to be expensive because those guys are already in high profile positions. You're going to have to promote them, give them pretty significant salaries. But other organizations for more junior staffers that are the next wave, the next cutting edge thinkers, if you do your due diligence, I don't think it would cost that much either.
What's the cheapest you've heard for salary? Sure. You don't have to say who it was. I'll give you my number that I heard.
I don't have a concrete number. But
cheapest I saw was like 55. Someone was making 55 in an analytics department in the NHL. But like you said, junior staff.
Okay, you're right. Yeah, like most of these guys are not making six-figure salaries. And just recently, I think the Lightning got flamed. They were trying to fill an intern role at their analytics department as an assistant.
That's right. So the number is lowest, 0, folks.
It was like lowest on the totem pole type position, right? Of course. And they were advertising $15 an hour. So obviously some teams are cheaping out. And I think, again, find that next wave. I'll give you an example of an area where I would want to specifically invest resources. We know drafting and developing is going to be the most important thing for this franchise to nail. I think one of the toughest things to figure out right now in the way that prospect evaluation is shifting is the differing and evolving quality of competition of the CHL leagues and the NCAA. And what I mean by that is, because a lot of the top OHL, WHL talent is leaving to the NCAA, the CHL leagues are becoming progressively weaker. Meanwhile, the NCAA is becoming increasingly tougher. And I think we haven't caught up yet as far as contextualizing just how tough the NCAA is as a league yet. Where, like, I heard Will Scouch, who does scouting rankings and YouTube videos, he said the NCAA is almost on par with some European pro leagues at this point. Not the SHL, but like some of the lower tier European pro leagues. Yeah, you should be thinking about it in a similar vein. Have teams fully caught up with that? And I think about a guy like Keaton Verhoff, right? He's one of the youngest players of this draft class. As a 17-year-old, he goes to the NCAA. As a 16-year-old in the WHL, he scored 21 goals, I think it was. If he had played in the WHL this year, which most defensemen of the last 10 years would have done, he would have put up a ton of points, a ton of goals there. He would have been able to dominate. And yet he goes to the NCAA, much tougher environment. And his performance there is admittedly up and down. You saw some of the flashes of really high-end tools, but you also saw moments where, okay, he's not making the best defensive reads, and okay, he's turning pucks over. But how much of that is he's in a league as a 17-year-old where he's going up against 22, 23-year-olds. Whereas a guy like Chase Reed or Carson Karls, they're in the CHL. It's a much lower competition level. So how do you, like, is there a way, not just as an analytics department, but your entire amateur scouting staff, like, I would want my organization conducting as much research into that and studying that part, because like, I think that's going to be one of the biggest opportunities to catch a difference, where some teams aren't going to weigh it appropriately, others are. And I think if you're leading edge in identifying those trends, it'll allow you to make better decisions at the draft table.
And I mean, it's just this is the way the Canucks were run when the Sedins were here, right? And you talk about culture, and I wanted to make a bigger focus today just of how good the vibe feels right now. And I will admit as well, saying the right things, especially when you're first hired, is the easy part. I will remind people, I'll be the first to say it. When Jim Rutherford was brought in, how excited were we? Oh my gosh, big bad Jim Benning is gone. Finally, it can't get any worse. It's Jim Rutherford's here. He speaks clearly. He's here to save the day. He's laid out a plan. He's here to save the day. Everything's going to be great. Executing it is still going to be what they're judged on. But I will say something that matters a lot more, or well, it mattered equally back then, but we didn't realize it maybe at the time. Something that matters a lot more to me is how they're talking about their process of how we're going to build this culture, and how that culture and what we're doing and what we believe in and our vision, that's going to influence player personnel decisions. RJ used the word, you stick out like a sore thumb. He said, like, everybody from management to coaches to every player on the roster and everybody in between is going to be told, are you ready for this? Like, are you ready to come into camp in your best shape in September and be ready to put your best foot forward, even though we're not going to win a ton of games? Are you ready to put your best foot forward? Are you ready to have the effort every single night? Are you ready for that? Because if not, this isn't going to work. And that's going to be their process for how we're going to weed guys out of, like, if you don't buy into that, you're going to stick out like a sore thumb and we'll happily find another place for you. And quite frankly, Harm, that's how the Canucks were run when the Sedins were players.
Yeah, absolutely. And we spent a lot of time yesterday talking about how exciting it is to have leaders that finally get it, right? They understand what the market wants, not just from the culture standpoint, but not taking shortcuts with this project. And
yeah, how many times did RJ say that yesterday?
The Sedins saying sometimes the fastest way to do it right is by going slow. Bang on. That's exactly what this market wants to hear. RJ later on in the press conference on multiple different occasions saying we have to stay committed to the plan we put in place today and not get sidetracked or diverted by the way things develop. And even there was a clip that Faber posted from an interview he'd previously done with RJ, where Faber straight up asked him, what's the difference between building a team where the aspiration is contending for the playoffs versus the Stanley Cup? And RJ had a terrific answer laying out that difference and saying what we've been begging for years, which is if you make the playoffs your sole focus, sometimes what happens is you get there and you maybe take shortcuts, but then you regress back. Like, is that not exactly what this market wants to hear? So you're right. The messaging was absolutely on point. Now the hard part is actually executing it, given the cards they've been dealt.
Absolutely. We'll get to more about this, I'm sure, in anyone else, but let's get to Family Feud. We've taken enough time. Family Feud brought to you by Greta. Great spot. Go watch the playoffs. They've got the arcade. They've got the bar. They've got the street food menu. Greta's a great spot. Make it your spot to watch the next game or just to hang out. You're out late on a Friday night. Greta's a great spot. Go hang out. 50 West Cordova Street is the address. Let the games begin. Okay, Jacob, take it away. Family Feud.
Time for another edition of Canucks Conversation Family Feud. All right. So it's been a couple weeks. We didn't play last week. Obviously a bunch of other stuff going on. It was draft lottery week. So we're back, and I think we've got some interesting data here. I think it was a good survey. I actually have to pull it back up because I accidentally closed the tab, so I'm going to stall it for a few seconds. Also, something to keep an eye on, there's going to be some stuff changing behind the scenes. Doesn't impact anything on the show, but when we play Feud again next week, assuming we'll play next week, it's going to look a little different, and I'm really excited. So keep an eye out for that. Here we go. I've got it up. I've I've set the difficulty to the Philadelphia Flyers. All right. Second round playoff team, but we all know they're not a second round playoff team. I think you guys should win this one. Harmon, you're going to go first.
Okay, I got to mute up.
Quads will mute up. Harm, you will have 25 seconds on the clock. Your time will begin when I finish reading the first question. Can't think of a response, say pass. We will come back to it at the end. Ready to go?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. On a scale of 1 to 10, what would you rate the excitement level of the Stanley Cup playoffs so far?
7.
Which team eliminated in the first round was the biggest disappointment?
Edmonton.
Which UFA will receive the highest AAV this July?
Talk.
Which RFA is most likely to be offer sheeted this July?
Bork. Maverick Bork.
Who will the Canucks draft third overall?
Kale Malhotra.
Good work. All right, you can flag quads down.
How did it go?
I think it went well. I think this is a winnable week.
Okay. As Jacob tallies this up, I just want to quickly apologize to you, the listeners, everybody. Keep getting the calls are coming from Bert's vet. He's fine. He's absolutely fine before anybody starts freaking out. It's just we're dealing with a little issue and I'm getting a bunch of calls and I have to take them. I can't be like, oh, let me get back to you. I do a podcast. So I apologize, but that's why I keep answering my phone and going to my phone. So I apologize, but yes, I'm excited to play Feud.
That'll be Quad's excuse now if he fumbles this round of Family Feud.
Actually, Bert's not going to be okay, and I'm super upset about it, and that's why I fumbled Feud.
And there we go. Okay, Harm, you got 124 points.
Oh,
Quads,
nice.
Oh, not bad.
Quads, you need 76. Ready to go?
Yeah.
Okay, you're going to have 30 seconds on the clock. Your time will begin when I finish reading the first question. If you can't think of a response, say pass. We'll come back to it at the end. And if you give one of Harmon's answers, you will hear the buzzer. There it is. And I will ask you to try again. Ready to go?
Yeah.
All right. Once again, you need 76 points. Question number 1. On a scale of 1 to 10, what would you rate the excitement level of the Stanley Cup playoffs so far?
8.
Which team eliminated in the first round was the biggest disappointment?
Utah.
Which UFA will receive the highest AAV this July?
Alex Tuck.
Try again.
Oh, Darren Radish.
Which RFA is most likely to be offer sheeted this July?
Oh, pass.
Who will the Canucks draft third overall?
Malhotra.
Try again.
Chase Reed.
Which RFA will be most likely to be offer sheeted?
McTavish.
McTavish. Okay, you got it off.
McTavish is already under contract.
Yeah,
I know.
He's already signed a long-term deal.
Whatever. I was like, I can't even remember who is in our. What did you say?
I'm surprised you didn't say. I said Maverick Bork, but I'm surprised you didn't just say Bedard.
Oh,
like no one's gonna offer sheet him, but at least he's an RFA.
Yeah, but I bet that would have gotten some votes because I keep putting it out there on this show.
Yeah, well, yeah. This has been half your bread. You drive me nuts every other month by.
Look, guys, it's been a tough day.
All right, let's go over here. So on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you rate the excitement level? Harm, you got the number 1 answer of 7. Quads, you got the number 2 answer of 8.
Nice.
Well
now
done.
the interesting thing is, 9 wasn't even on the list. This 7 and 8 were the number 1 and 2 answer, but number 3 answer was 5. Which now for me, you know, as a Montreal Canadiens fan, it's been a 9 or a 10 because that Tampa series was just some of the most intense, tight hockey that I've ever seen. And this Buffalo series is just wild and crazy and end-to-end and goals. So I've been enjoying that, but I can understand if you were maybe pulling for a different team. There's been some sweeps. There's been some non-competitive series. So I get it. All right. Now, speaking of non-competitive series, which team eliminated in the first round was the biggest disappointment? Neither of you guys got the number 1 answer. Edmonton, Harm, was the number 2 answer worth 30 points. Quads, Utah, number 3 answer worth 15. Dallas was the number 1 answer.
Dallas, yeah, that was a good one.
That's fair.
Yeah. Tampa, number 4, Pittsburgh, number 5, by the way. Which UFA will receive the highest AAV this July? Alex Tuck, number 1 answer. Quads, who did you pivot to?
Radish.
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 That was a
Yeah.
good answer.
Good pivot. That was the number 2 answer worth 30 points. You only
Let's
need 9
go.
more.
Oh, nice.
Number 3 answer was Rasmus Anderson.
Hmm.
And number 4 answer was Alexander Ovechkin. I don't think Ovechkin's. I mean, maybe if it's a 1-year deal, but like, I don't know. I don't think Ovechkin's gonna get a massive contract at this stage, but you never know.
Canucks.
Okay, now I got some bad news here on this one. Obviously, Quads. No votes for Mason McTavish.
Yep.
Now, Harm, I will say part of this is on me. For this question, I gave a list of a bunch of RFAs, and then I did have at the bottom like a write-in vote if there was someone I didn't list. I forgot to include Maverick Bourque on the list.
Oh no!
Now, 2 people did write in Maverick Bourque, so you got 2 points because there's
who did
very. My list included, and I'll give you the top 6 here. Yes, again, so sorry, but 2 very keen Canucks conversation listeners who were in on Maverick Bourque. Jason Robertson, Connor Bedard, Pavel Dorofeyev, Adam Fantilli, Brant Clark, Leo Carlson. That was the top 6 in order.
None of those guys are going to get offer
I was just going to say, can I just give you the write it down moment? None of them get offer sheeted.
Well, hold on though. So I did just say who would get offer sheeted, not will it be a successful offer sheet. I think it's possible one of those guys gets an offer sheet and the team just instantly matches. Realistically, no one's getting offer sheeted. No one ever gets offer sheeted. And when St. Louis pulled the Broberg Holloway thing, everyone went crazy because we saw 2 guys on the same team get offer sheeted by the same team. That's just not the norm. I know fans love offer sheets, but like it's probably going to be nobody.
Actually would make sense for a team.
Yeah, sure.
Because you got to worry about the
Dallas
Robertson contract. Yeah. And if he's going to be in that compensation range where I think you can pay him where you only have to give up a 2nd round pick. And if you pay him at a certain AAV, I don't know if Dallas can afford him. Plus he looked really good in the playoffs. So I actually think that's one of the only realistic ones, but yeah, that's fine. Tough break there.
Yeah.
Like you get that in the playoffs, right? You get a tough bounce.
Yeah. Like I would assume, obviously we've talked Bedard. Bedard was the right answer for this segment because Quads has been talking about him so much. But we know it's definitely not going to happen. The Dorofeyev one's interesting. And obviously he's been red hot recently here in the playoffs, but like, I think he's just going to sign a long-term extension with Vegas, right? Like he's not even going to get to the point where he can be offer sheeted. And let's be real here. If anyone does offer sheet him, I think Vegas is matching. Anyways, you guys need 9 points in the last question. Who will the Canucks draft 3rd overall? Harm, you said Caleb Malhotra. That was the number 2 answer. Chase Reed, Quads, number 3 answer, but worth 16 points. You guys get the win.
Nice.
Let's go.
Ivar Stenberg, number 1 answer, 41 points. Nearly half of the people in the survey think Stenberg's going to fall to number 3. Because I did make it very clear. Who will the Canucks draft 3rd overall? Not are the Canucks going to trade up to 2? Who will they draft 3rd overall? And 41 people think Stenberg's going to fall. Hey, you know what? I hope you're right. I think that would be great. It would give us a ton to talk about if Stenberg falls to 3. He's looked good at the World so far, but I just don't think it's going to happen. Anyways, you guys
I love the optimism.
You guys get the win, 207 points. Big feud victory here on a Friday. We'll have a new survey. No show. Excuse me. Sorry. No show Monday. We'll have a new survey on Tuesday. We'll play either Thursday or Friday next week.
Cool. All right, let's get to
the nightmare scenario for me, by the way, is Stenberg falls to 3 and they pass him up for Malhotra.
No,
I really hope that doesn't happen.
It's not gonna happen. Stop it. Why you even put that out there?
I mean, it's a legitimate question.
Is it? Stenberg
everybody
is a legitimate question?
No, well, not that it should be, because Stenberg is quite clearly the better prospect, but everybody and their mom seems to think that the Canucks are like in love with Caleb Malhotra. like every corner of the industry. If you've seen in almost every single mock
Okay,
draft, I'm like,
can I give you a
okay,
quick
like,
rebuttal? Can I give you a quick
yeah.
rebuttal, dude? Not to rain on the parade a little too much. The presidents of hockey operations got named yesterday, and Ryan Johnson got named GM yesterday. How the hell did any of them know what the Canucks are thinking right now? They might know what Todd Harvey and his staff think, but you know who has the final say on this? The guys that were hired yesterday.
True, but if you keep the same amateur scouting staff in place, which we'd presume, you think new execs are going to walk in the door when they haven't been part of the draft process and say, "Yeah, I know you guys want this guy, but I'm going to veto all of you and pick this guy instead." I don't
know.
I
don't know, dude. I don't think that's a worry.
It's not a huge worry, but it's at least in the back of my mind. It's not a slam dunk. Oh, obviously, I have 100% confidence that the Canucks would take Stenberg in that scenario. I really hope they do, but we'll see.
7-7 said all the mock drafts don't take into account if the Canucks hire Manny as well. Oh, interesting to think about. All right, let's get to anyone else, which is a presentation of the Vancouver Canadians. The Seas got rained out today, which sucks. But hey, nooner at the Nat tomorrow on Saturday, and it's definitely looking sunny on Sunday, where there'll be another nooner at the Nat, 1:05 p.m. start at the Nat. Head on down to Nat Stadium, celebrating 75 years this year. New triple O's on the concourse as well. To get your tickets, call 604-872-5232 or check out CanadiansBaseball.com. All right, we've got a super chat from Elfrin. We'll kick off anyone else with it. It's for $5. He said, if they draft Stenberg, would you fear the Canucks will try to develop him into a centerman instead of letting him cook at wing like they did with EP40?
No.
That's not what happened with Elias Pettersson. Elias Pettersson was always the center. It was just the idea was, well, when he comes over, maybe he needs to play the wing because it's easier for him to learn the wing. And it was Travis Green that said, no, I'm putting him at center. And like, to his credit, PD excelled at that. Don't forget how good PD was as a center in his rookie year. It wasn't like they drafted a winger and then said, we're going to turn you into a center with Elias Pettersson. That's not what happened.
Yeah, and they made the right decision. Bang on. It would have been I don't want to say mistake is maybe too far, but starting him at the wing and projecting him out as a winger was clearly the second best option compared to just playing him down the middle, because how dominant was he in his first and second years in the NHL? The transition was seamless. He handled the two-way responsibilities with ease. And with Stenberg, no, there's no chance they're going to convert a natural winger into a center. So I wouldn't worry about that.
Okay, I have a clip from yesterday that we didn't play. It was Henrik Sedin. And I did a reminder. If anybody wants it, you go to CanucksArmy.com. You just search quick guide, quick reminder on how to tell the Sedins apart. I broke it down. Little quiz in there for you too. You'll have some fun with it. It's a great little quiz. You're gonna have a great time. All right, this clip, Henrik Sedin talking. Honestly, I can't remember what I wanted to talk about. Whatever Henrik says,
we also did play this clip. The part that you want is the end of a longer clip that we played. Unless you're thinking about something different, but we'll play it again right now.
I think this is it. Let's do it. Yeah, proud to be Canucks fans. Let's do it.
Connected piece as well. We gotta bring that back and surely, I mean, just to have the people in the city and this province to be proud of, to be proud to be a Canucks fans again, and that's part of it.
To be proud to be Canucks fans again. Have you ever felt so heard as a Canucks fan? Like, seriously, have you ever felt so heard and so seen just by the management group? Like, when's the last time you walked away from a press conference and been like, not just, oh, that didn't go badly, or, oh, there's no like crazy headline for me to glob onto when it comes to this team right now? When's the last time you came away from a press conference and said like, yeah, you know what? That guy said exactly what I've been thinking for a while. He's laying out a vision that I really support and that I'm really excited about. That was a really good answer from Henrik Sedin. I wanted to highlight it.
Yep, and I think it's because they had that transition phase between 2018 when they retired to 2021 when they officially took over, or not took over, but joined the organization, where they were fans and they spoke about how they were rooting for the team. They were neither players nor part of the organization, and so they were just watching along just like everybody else in this market. And you don't think it was frustrating for them to see that new group with Hughes, Pedersen, Miller, Besser, Horvat start to have success in that bubble, and then that disastrous offseason where they lost all their UFAs, basically, you go to the 2021 offseason or the 2021 All-Canadian division year, and you're awful in that Canadian division. You completely lose all that momentum and you're heading down the wrong path again. I think part of it stems from them having that experience where they were literally fans.
All right, I want to pivot here. Flying Cobra Chicken, before we pivot, said Hank and Danny feel us. That's absolutely right. And I wanted to highlight this as well. Over the years, I think I might have said this yesterday, so I apologize for repeating myself, but over the years, especially with Jim Rutherford and Patrick Alvine, there's been a sense of like, what are you guys all freaking out about? Like, we've got this, and well, we've only been here for this many years, so what are you guys freaking out? Why are you mad at us? There was always a sense of that with those guys. And what I'm really getting at is that it always kind of felt like they didn't quite grasp how much this fan base had been through before they got here, if that makes sense.
Bang on.
And I think the Sedins and RJ really get that, and that it comes out just when they talk, that they totally get what fans are going through. They totally understand. I mean, they understand the media environment really well. Like, Daniel was on with Halford and Bruff this morning, and one thing he said was like, if you treat the media well, they'll treat you really well. And you might have to answer some tough questions, but like, what did those guys do, right? What did those guys do? It was, okay, tough loss. Him and Henrik were out there answering questions. Big win. Send out a young guy. Send out whoever. Send out another guy to go bask in the glory of a big win, right? Like, that's not their job. And those guys are just, honestly, like, I don't think the Canucks could have come away from it much better. And I don't know, maybe this will get clipped and talked about in 5 years. I don't know if I'll be right about this, but, and this isn't a thing about Evan Gold specifically, but I think going with a Sedin-led management group and having Ryan Johnson as the one that's reporting to them and working with them, I think that's probably the best thing the Canucks could have done for their culture. And I'm not saying Evan Gold would have been bad for the culture. I just think that when it's those three guys together, I think that's about as good as it can get when it comes to rebuilding all of these things. And also, people laugh at the culture thing in the off ice, and how you handle your media responsibilities, how you are in the community. Like, someone replied and like, oh yeah, going to see sick kids is definitely gonna make you better on the ice. Yeah, that's literally what Henrik Sedin said yesterday. He said, like, even when you have a tough game, it becomes a lot easier to deal with everything, because what he was kind of getting at was like, you can look yourself in the mirror and say, like, I'm really involved in this community still, and fans aren't going to turn on you as quickly if you're one of these people. Here's what I said on Daily Faceoff Live today with Tyler and Carter Hutton. I said, for years, it's been, the players on the ice, some they haven't made the playoffs in years, right? They haven't made the playoffs in years. Yeah, sometimes they don't give an effort either, and that's really frustrating to watch. But does it help you to know that they're also not very involved in the community? Does that help? No, it makes it way worse. And I think that was the point Henrik was trying to make yesterday when he was talking about this. And I just think, again, I think that matters a lot.
Absolutely. And now I agree with all that, and yet maybe this is just the part of me that doesn't trust the organization. And like, I've lost giving this organization the benefit of the doubt, and not this management group, to be very clear. I trust them, but I still have question marks about this ownership group. And ultimately, it starts at the top. Are you going to empower them with every resource possible? Or are you going to cheap out in certain respects? 2-3 years down the road, when you start to accumulate some exciting prospects, are you just going to pressure these guys to start accelerating again? And I still have those worries. I cannot yet give this ownership group, I know they said the word rebuild. Great. What else were they going to say? We're retooling? Like, you can't possibly justify accelerating or turning it around quickly. Like, there's no world where that's even possible. But how does that conversation shift when it might look possible to the ownership group? I trust that management will have the bigger picture vision in mind.
Yeah.
And sure, the Sedins have said we have 100% autonomy, but that's also what
So did Rutherford. So did, yeah, exactly. So did
regime just
Benning.
said, right? So that remains a question for me, and it's something we're not going to get the answer to until we're further down the road and closer to the middle phase of this rebuild.
Yep, absolutely. J-Mobs with a good point in the chat. This is what I was trying to say earlier, and this is closer to what Henrik actually said. I apologize, didn't have the quote exactly ready, but this is what J-Mob said. He said Henrik was making the point that if he had a bad game and starts to get down on himself, being involved with the children's hospital and being there gives you life perspective of how lucky you are, makes things a little easier to handle. So yeah, it does translate to on ice performance. Like that's the point that he was making. So anyways, okay. Anything else you want to get to, or can we get to Bet365?
Let's move on.
All right. Bet365. There's no NHL action tonight. Tonight though, Jacob, how you feeling about your Jays?
Nah, not great.
All right, we're taking Detroit Tigers money line. Tigers are home underdogs against the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yes. Okay. Take them as home underdogs. That's a good bet. Yeah.
Trey Savage is on the bump for the Jays. But we're taking the Detroit Tigers money line. You can get that at plus 105 odds over at Bet365. Every sports fan will tell you that not all games are created equal. Sometimes the excitement just isn't there. Sometimes you get a dud. It happens. But at Bet365, boring games are a thing of the past. Now, there's always a reason to tune in, even if the score isn't one of them. And while they can't make every game exciting, they can help fans get excited about every game. Bet365, download the app today. Must be 19 or older. Please play responsibly. All right, folks. Have a great weekend. We'll be back on Monday. We'll close it out there.
Tuesday. Back on Tuesday.
Thank you.
Long weekend.
Tuesday.
Yeah.
Long weekend. Enjoy the long weekend, folks. For my co-host Harmon Dial and our technical producer Jacob Bazar, my name is Dave Jelly. Thanks so much for the episode of Canucks Conversation.
Canucks Conversation is live Monday through Friday, every weekday at 2 p.m. over on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, and interact in the YouTube live chat every day with us, folks.